You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
It's the TuAmigos Podcast with Carter and Jorge at DolphinsTalk.com.
Welcome back to the TuAmigos. My name is Carter Melrose, and this is a solo show. Welcome to my solo show, to my domain. The only show I will be a total knucklehead because we don't have Jorge, my co-host who's normally here. He couldn't do it. I don't know what he was doing. Something work-related. I kind of tuned out when he said he couldn't come. But the point is that I will be doing the show solo. It won't be too long, but I have a lot to say, and the Dolphins are rolling. So this is one of those shows that is just, exciting. It's electric just coming into week 3, 2-0, and honestly, kind of peering at 3-0 to play that Bills game once again. I remember last year, one of my biggest wishes was that we would come into week 3, I think it was, 2-0 and against the Bills. It didn't look like last year we were going to be able to cut it because we were down by like 20 against the Ravens, and you know what happened in those moments. Then we were able to beat the Bills. Maybe that was week 2 or week 3. I get it all mixed up in my head. But I think I have the same type of vibes going into the Broncos game. I really think we're going to be 3-0 versus the Bills next week at home. Actually, no, it's on the road, which is perfect. So we don't actually have to play in January in Buffalo, which is literally Tua's kryptonite, it feels like. So there's a lot of things to be happy and positive about going forward. But let's touch on this Patriots game really, really quickly because it was kind of annoying, honestly. The coverage that we had, the kind of press coverage we had leading up to this game. There was a lot of people, and I'm not saying 40% of analysts. I'm saying nearly 60% of analysts thought the Patriots were going to beat us in Foxborough on Sunday Night Football, and it was ridiculous to me. It was so ridiculous to me that I had put down. And I'm not joking on this. I had put down $1,000 on the Dolphins, and that's a lot of money for me because I usually bet in increments of $50. I put down $1,000, and before kickoff, when everyone was picking the Patriots to win that game, I kept racking my brain thinking, how? How are they going to win this game? We are better than them in every facet of the game. Maybe not special teams. Apparently they're special teams gods with Slater still playing. I think he's like 90 years old at this point. And we also have Jason Sanders, who can't make a kick. He has the yips because random dudes are running off the sideline and blocking his kicks. So that was pretty cool. I'll be honest about that. However, like I was saying, I put $1,000 on this game. I put another $500 right before kickoff because I was going, how the hell is this team going to beat us? Name one player on the Patriots offense that scares you. Mac Jones was so bad last year that they benched him. For like a player that I don't remember his name currently. It was along the lines of Jeremy Shockey, and that isn't far from the truth. So that's my issue going into that game. It was just so annoying. I could not understand. Last week, I was talking to Jorge about this, and I was sort of on the side of the Dolphins have no right, or the Patriots have no right to beat the Dolphins for the next 3 years. There should be no reason we lose that team other than Tua's not playing that game. If Tyreek Hill's out, if Jalen Waddle's out, it doesn't matter. We should be able to beat them based on scheme, based on Tua playing, almost undefendable by Belichick. They put 3 safeties deep to cut off Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle's deep balls, and all we did was dink and dunk all night, and that was so easy. That game looked so easy. And there were moments where the Patriots could have tied us or got, took the lead, but honestly, there was not a single moment in that game I thought we would lose. Not a single moment. Even when we threw the interception, when they scored, and then We went 3 and out, and we punted the ball back, and it was 24-17, and they were about to drive. I was like, I promise you, I swear to you, we can't lose this game because Mac Jones isn't good. He's just not good. And like I said, I just could not understand these analysts saying, oh, this team, somehow, after watching last week our performance against the Chargers, I don't know how you look at that game and you look at this Patriots roster and you say, oh yeah, this Patriots team is good and they're going to beat the Dolphins. It makes no sense to me. It almost seems like the analysts were doing some like weird, I'm going to be the hipster pick and pick the Patriots because of Bill Belichick. Well, you're living in the past. They should not beat us for the next 3 years. And like the statistics have told us, Tua is now 5-0 against Bill Belichick, and that is not happenstance. That is a pattern now. He is just good against Belichick for some reason. One reason I'll argue is we don't have Tom Brady to worry about anymore, and maybe Bill Belichick is just a good defensive coach, and that's it. Right? Maybe that's part of it. It has to be part of it. Maybe he's not a god like we always think he is. Honestly, it is fair to say it's kind of crazy to me that Bill Belichick can win 9 games a year or 8 or 9 games a year with that roster. It seems like that Mac Jones roster has been the same roster for like 3 years, and they haven't got a lick better, and their cornerbacks are always really good, but it's always a different one. They trade out, they like cut a Pro Bowl corner here, let J.C. Jackson go here, and then they just draft another one who plays about the same. The defense is going to be stout. The offense is going to be piss poor. How is Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, like basically our scraps, basically our ex-girlfriends that we did not want to re-sign because we thought they weren't good or they were injured all the time? Those are our scraps. You can have them. You're taking all of our scraps and thinking you can make this elite offense out of it. And Stevenson, we shut him down, and that's their best player. On offense, that's their best player, and we shut him down. Okay, so going forward, there's some news, of course, that the Herd, which is Colin Cowherd's show on FX1, they have a kind of a power ranking segment on that show where it's called the Herd Hierarchy, and they basically rank. Colin ranks his top 10 teams in the NFL. And the big news coming out of Colin's show is he's usually a Dolphin hater. He's usually a Tua anti-evangelist. I don't even know what that would be. A Tua hater, basically. He put the Dolphins at the number 1 team in the NFL, which is really, really interesting. Like I said, for those prior reasons. And he is of the idea, I suppose, that this offense is just going to win any shootout they play in, and this defense is good enough. Basically, that's what he said. And he's ranked us ahead of the Niners, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and then the Eagles at 5. And honestly, I don't know if I would rank us at number 1 at this moment in time. We play the Chargers, who are 0-2 right now. We play the Patriots, who are 0-2 right now, okay? The Patriots lost to that Eagles team, and I don't remember who the Chargers lost to this last week, but I think it was the Titans. My point is right now, we haven't beat a contender necessarily, so I'm not at the point where I can just, evangelize us as the number 1 team in the entire NFL, especially when the Chiefs always start out slow. They didn't have Travis Kelce in the first game. You really can't put any team ahead of Kansas City until proven different. And we play them this year, so that's the moment we could prove them differently. I really wish that was in Kansas City because I wanted to go to that game. I would have spent $3,000 on seats. I don't care. I wanted to go to that game so bad, and I wanted to see Tyreek Hill's homecoming. But, of course, they had to move it to Germany. I don't know what the frick they're doing over there in the NFL office. And also, I'd have to say this. I don't think you can put anyone over the Chiefs right now. I don't think you can put anyone over the Cowboys right now. The Cowboys have allowed, 10 points in 2 weeks against a last year playoff team in the Giants. And who did they just play? I'm spacing it, but they're 2-0 right now, and they look dangerous. They look dangerous. There's no way you put the Dolphins ahead of the Cowboys right now. Like, we're going to play the Cowboys this year too, so that's another point of let's prove it. We're playing 3 of the top 5 teams in Colin's hierarchy this season. The other one we're going to play is the Eagles. I'm not sure we can put us over the Eagles either. Eagles were in the Super Bowl last season, and they have just figured out something. Last week, I was talking about this, but this is really what I want from the Dolphins, is there is this moment every single year, at least the last 2 years with Tua, and I know he's been injured a lot of the games, so that doesn't count as much as I think it does, but let's say, generally speaking, when Tua's playing, what happens is he wins in the beginning of the year, a couple of games, and then at the end of the year, they kind of figure out what we're doing, and we can't do a lot offensively. That's sort of what happened last year, minus his injuries, right? We had this huge span of a winning streak early on, and then in the middle of the season, and at the end of the season, he slowed down. Maybe that was the weather, but maybe that was also them figuring us out, defenses, whoever it might be. The first game I'm thinking of from last season is when we played the Steelers, and we scored like 17 points and barely won that game against a rookie, Kenny Pickett. Not something you want to put on tape a lot of times. The Eagles are a team from last year that I really hope we can sort of mimic. Because what happened was, week 1, a lot of people didn't know preseason that the Eagles were going to be a Super Bowl team. No one really called that with Jalen Hurts. They said, oh, Jalen Hurts is probably going to be pretty good this season, but you did not call them as a Super Bowl contender. Week 1, for some whatever reason, they just slapped everybody. Week 2, slapped. And they just continued to slap everyone, every single game, until the end of the season, and then made their run to the Super Bowl. No one figured them out. No one could stop them. The read option worked every time. That sneak they do, that sneak, little slippery snake thing they do, worked every time. And no defense was able to figure out the Eagles. Maybe in the Super Bowl you would say, no, I wouldn't even say the Chiefs figured out the Eagles in the Super Bowl. They just kind of went back and forth in a shootout, and it's hard to win a shootout against Patrick Mahomes. So that's kind of what I want for the Dolphins. In the next couple of games here, or honestly the rest of the season, we're going to be playing some really, really good defenses. Like the Cowboys and the Ravens. I guess the Ravens aren't amazing, but we're going to be playing the Jets. Are we going to be scoring 17 on the Jets? Are we going to be scoring, 13 on the Cowboys? Because you can't count us as this elite offense if we can't put up 24, 27 on these elite defenses. That's my point exactly. Like, you can't win a Super Bowl if your strength is offense, but against those elite defenses and those good defenses, you can't do much and they can figure you out. And honestly, like I said, the Eagles, no one figured them out last season. So we have 3 of those teams coming up this year. I'm really excited, but I can't count us as number 1 team right now. I love that Colin's giving us some credit. I love that around the NFL, people are giving us some credit. But I'm not in the league. I'm not in the place to put us as the number 1 team in the whole NFL. Moving on to this week and a little bit into next week. The Dolphins are playing the Broncos. And going into this game, the Broncos are coming off kind of a heartbreak game versus, oh my goodness, why am I not thinking of it? I think it was the Commanders. Let me make sure, though. Yeah, I think it was the Commanders. They had the, 35-33 loss against the Commanders. And if you watch this game, this was one of the best games of the day. The Russell Wilson threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game. It was completed after like a triple ricochet. And then for the 2-point conversion to tie up that game, there was a kind of a controversial call where one of the players got pushed down. It should have been a PI, or it maybe shouldn't have been a PI. I don't really know. I'm not going to make that call. It's an interesting spot because I think this is kind of hilarious, all right? Because coming into this week, the Denver Broncos should lose this handily, and they should be 0-3 going into week 4. And the funniest part about this is I want Sean Payton to burn. And he is slowly burning, and I love to see it, okay? Because there's no reason we should lose this game. But I'll tell you this, Sean Payton is a great coach. He's not a great person, I don't think. He had the Bounty Gate stuff, and also before the season started, do you remember at Hard Knocks that interview Rodgers had about like keep my coach's name out of your mouth, basically? because Sean Payton was whoever the coach was for the Broncos last year. I'm spacing a lot of names and games today. I don't know why. The coach for the Broncos last season, Sean Payton, called it the worst coaching job in NFL history. And Rodgers in Hard Knocks and on NFL Network was like, keep my coach's name out of your mouth. And I think it would be hilarious if Sean Payton somehow went like 0-17 with this same roster. It would be so fitting and poetically justified. I would be over the moon. I want them to burn, I'll be honest. And I want to beat the Broncos by 21 points. The problem is they have a good coach. They have talent on that roster, and their back is against the wall. I saw this statistic on TikTok. This guy, he does, sports betting. Right now, the line is at -6.5 in favor of the Dolphins. So they think we're going to win by 6.5, which is basically one touchdown, right? But in terms of betting this game, or not betting this game because this is not financial advice, but in terms of looking at this game from the perspective that Las Vegas usually knows what happens, the Broncos, teams that start 0-2 and are usually seen as like a fringe playoff team or a playoff team, are really, really, really good in week 3. When they have their backs to the wall, they usually cover that spread. So I'm sure that they're going to cover the 6.5 against us. I think we're still going to win, but I think they cover the 6.5, especially with their back against the wall like this. I just don't. And honestly, they could win outright. It's possible. We're at home for the first time. We have an amazing offense. We should slaughter them. But if this is going to be a same old Dolphins situation, we could end up losing this game outright to the Broncos because Sean Payton schemes up an amazing game plan, shuts down Tua, and Russell Wilson just does enough to beat us 17-14, whatever it might be. I don't foresee that. But I'm telling you right now that 0-2 teams who are fringe playoff teams definitely cover the spread. 6.5 points. I think it's going to be a field goal game. I think it's going to be 4 or 5 points. I think we win, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than you think it's going to be. So the Dolphins right now, as we speak, the injury report on Wednesday. Remember, I'm recording this on Wednesday. You're going to be probably listening to this on Thursday or Friday. But the Dolphins are currently in an interesting position. Jalen Waddle has been on and off of the injury report for a couple of weeks now. And I think it's just his chest or, something along those lines, like a kind of a weird injury that you don't usually see on an injury report. Salvin Ahmed is also on the injury report, and Xavier Howard. They all didn't practice on Wednesday. Not to say that they won't practice on Thursday, and maybe Xavier Howard, he's sitting because he's a vet, whatever it might be. Right now, those are 3 names that are coming up. We think we might be getting Teron Armstead back, which is great, which is kind of interesting that we won our first 2 games without Teron Armstead, because last season when Teron Armstead was out, we would suffer. You would see how we would suffer. There would be times where Tua would be sacked twice on every single drive when Teron Armstead was out. It was literally the difference between us scoring 31 and 17 most weeks. That was the difference last season, it felt like, when we didn't have that left tackle who was anchoring that left side for us. Now, it seems as if it didn't matter. Like our offensive line, Tua's getting the ball out so freaking quickly that it doesn't matter who's playing on that offensive line. That honestly, I could play the offensive line because Tua's just making decisions at a lightning pace. So, Teron Armstead, it's going to be really interesting to see if he elevates us even further to the point where, Tua's getting 4 seconds for a deep shot or something like that. If Xavier Howard ends up being out, this is going to be interesting. If Cam Smith is across from Kodu or could do. I'm not sure how to say it. I've heard it both ways. Or he's going to be opposite of Eli Apple. I'm not really sure what's going to happen here, but we're getting pretty thin at that corner position, so I hope Xavier is just on a vet rest. And Jalen, I'm sure he'll play. He's had this lingering thing. I hope he can make it to the bye, and then he can take that week off. I know that's week 10. I know that's out there, but I really just don't want any weeks without Jalen Waddle because I just bought his jersey. And he is my favorite player in the NFL, and I haven't got to Waddle this season, and I would love to do so very soon. My prediction for this game is the Dolphins beat the Broncos. Like I said, it's closer than you think it's going to be. I think it's going to be 24-20, something like that. The Broncos cover that 6.5 spread, but they do not win. The last thing I want to talk about before, I end this episode, this solo episode of the show, I had so much fun and passion to display with you, so I'm glad that I got to talk the entire time. That's one thing about having a co-host, you can't talk the entire time. The thing I want to tell you is that this season, and I know we've said this in seasons prior, but it does feel special, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like we're all, just from, snap number one, we're being respected as a top 5 team by the national media, that we are delivering. You know what I mean? Like in the big games, playing Herbert in week 1, Tua outplays him by a mile, right? We play Belichick in Foxborough. It's a division rivalry. That's one of the hardest games you can play all season long. It doesn't matter how good their roster is. That's one of the hardest games to play all year long in Foxborough. Their defense is always going to be elite, right? And we win that game. It just feels like we were supposed to be good this season, and we are delivering exactly the product people thought we were going to deliver. And then we have Jalen Ramsey coming back in December. And if we can stay healthy, knock on wood, going through this entire season, there is no reason we shouldn't be a top 2, top 3 offense in the entire NFL. And we should win shootouts. And we can win with Vic Fangio's defensive schemes sometimes, and we can run the ball, it seems. It feels different. And we have Tua in the media just today talking about this city is starving for a championship. They want Miami back in the Super Bowl. We haven't talked Super Bowl in years in like a very realistic way. You had to be an idiot to talk Super Bowl in the last 5 years when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. Now we're talking about it, and it kind of makes sense. If we can blow people out of the water and just, meet expectations all year long, there is no reason we shouldn't win or be in every single game. The Bills are not better than us on paper. The Jets will be blown out every time we play them. I just know it. They're not, for some reason, they're just not going to be very good this season. For the Rodgers reason, but still. I'm telling you right now, the Chiefs, when we play them, you have to earn it. You have to go into Germany. You have to go into Germany and prove it. But at this point in time, there is no way that we shouldn't beat the Chiefs or be in that game. All right? So, I'm just saying this from the perspective of a long time negative Dolphin fan. Tua is the guy. If he stays healthy, we're going to go places. And the AFC Championship has to be the standard. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the TuAmigos. I'm so glad that we've gone through years and years of turmoil to finally be at this place. And week 3, we're going to keep rolling into week 4, which is going to be the most intriguing week of the season so far versus the Bills. Hope it'll probably be them 2-1 versus us 3-0. And we're going to see if the Dolphins can finally beat the Bills in Buffalo, which is honestly something I don't think we've done in maybe 4 years, maybe 5 years, whatever it was. We're about to eclipse them. Their window, I'm telling you, the Bills' window, and I know I ended the show. I tried to end the show. The Bills' window has closed. As much as you want to argue, they still have this player, they still have this player. I think the Bills' window for a championship has officially closed, and the Dolphins' window is open. And we have to prove that next week, but I think we will. This is the most positive episode I think I've ever recorded And I'm really excited for us all to partake in this team week after week after week. This has been the Two Amigos on the DolphinsTalk.com podcasting network. I will see you next week, and Jorge will probably be back as well.